2 p.m. Mountain Time every Monday. Nonprofit chat. Okay, so that's what we are all about here. Today we have a special guest with us, CB.
Hello.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is CB Bartholow. I come from the world of mobile. I helped work for the company called MGive. We started the first mobile donation campaign with the American Red Cross. I saw over 44 million in donations the first month. Most of my work, it was crazy, but a fun project to be a part of. And most of my work now is helping to lead a millennial-based, faith-based organization that's a self-funding and advocacy organization that Meg, you're a part of.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to be here today. It should be a fun conversation.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm just telling people how they can join us right now.
Okay.
Because the first time I shared the link, it shared some odd, I don't know,
Someone
aliens.
else's? Okay.
We're talking to humans right now.
Cool. So to sort of set the conversation, what we're especially sort of focused on today is building a millennial donor base.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting conversation because any conversation that's sort of leading edge or whatever in the nonprofit world, to get to a point of saturation takes years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sort of at the early edge of this conversation. This is something that people have been looking at for 2 or 3 years, as people have been talking about. But local nonprofits, even national nonprofits, haven't really absorbed this yet. What sort of, in summary, is it that people need to know about this?
Yeah, well, I think that everybody understands that current donor bases are getting older, and as the donor base grows and ages, you begin to lose them. And it's important for any organization that wants to stay healthy to have a donor base that evolves with them, that changes with them, that grows with them. So, most organizations are now looking at how to engage, how to meet, how to speak to a younger generation on their own terms, to begin to foster a population that would get them to a place of giving. I think that most organizations are not currently targeting millennials as their primary giving source, safe to say, but they're all certainly looking at, okay, what do we do if in 10 years, 60% of our baby boomer database is now either aged out or is no longer interested in partaking in fundraising because of their own fixed income or whatever it may be. So that's the big challenge. And I think that the scary part is not engaging a new organization or a new generation. The scary part is our current model and everything that we do in terms of outreach, fundraising, marketing, correspondence is built on how we communicate with this group.
Right.
So changing our mind may not be that difficult, but changing almost all of our systems will be. So, is now the time? How long can we wait? Can we still stick with what we know works right now? We're not losing any donors yet. What's the threshold for the loss of dollars that we need to say, okay, now we need to invest? Should we just start investing now? Tons of questions because it's such a shift in paradigm on the way that you currently work.
Right. And speaking of questions, can I just be like the bad cop here and just be like, I have a lot of opinions. I've been in the nonprofit space for like 20 years. I'm a seasoned vet. I mean, I'm over here, I've worked with so many nonprofits. I've even written a book on nonprofit marketing.
Okay.
And I've done a lot of research. And I'm just really tired of all the trendy talking about reaching millennials and targeting millennials. And I have some really good reasons why. So one of the topics that a recent blog article is based on that I wrote that young donors are not really worth what it costs to get them. They're really expensive. Young donors just don't pencil out. You lose too much money on them. And this is coming from futurefundraisingnow.com. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, there's a certain level of truth there. Millennials are there's an investment level here that has to take place in order to engage with this population. I think that statement makes me sad because I'm a millennial, so it makes me a little sad. Like,
You don't matter.
it feels like you don't matter, or certainly you're too much work for it, right? But I'm actually more sad for that organization because that seems more like our strategy is not to change, and I think that now you have to change. An organization that is the life cycle of anybody who's going to do good, is that good changes, and the way you do it has to change as well.
So their strategy is not to be around in 25 years.
Isn't that? I mean,
That's what it sounds
I wish
like.
you would say that, so I didn't have to be the one to say that.
Well, I was going to say the same thing. Like, doesn't that sort of speak to the value they place on the future of their organization?
It does.
Doesn't it say, like, sort of, we don't care about the future. We only care about right now, today. Chances are we won't be around, or
Right.
I don't know. It seems
Well,
like
I have a really good comeback for that.
Okay.
A really good comeback for that. So if you're serious, like what I tell nonprofits all the time, is if they're really serious about replacing their, the skeletons, the dying donors, they really need to be aiming at almost old people.
Interesting.
That those between 45 and 65. Because the baby boomers, they have the money and they're the ones, they have all the money. So
And that's actually not too bad of a strategy. I think it's a daunting task for an organization to say our current donor base is 60 and up. Okay, that's where we do our big gala, and that's where our automatic withdrawals come from, and that's
our
where
mailings,
our
they
mailing is
love
right there.
mail.
So
They just
coming-
love
Our
getting
yearly
stuff in the
newsletter
mail.
That's
is
right.
attached as a PDF.
That's
Or
right.
No, not even
Not
that.
even that.
Not even that. Right.
I think changing from that thinking all the way to how do I engage a 22-year-old is a daunting task for sure. So I think
Right.
it's an easier sell to sort of think than the just one half step down. But there's an article, and I brought it because I think it's incredibly powerful. Derek Feldman, he's from Achieve, they're a cause marketing organization, along with Emily Yu, she's the VP for engagement at the Case Foundation. And they did an article, and it's in the Stanford Social Innovation Review, and they said millennial preferences are becoming more than just preferences, they're becoming the norm for all donors. And I think anecdotally, each of us has had an experience where one of us has shown our parents how to engage in some sort of technology or some sort of cause-based organization. This is what I do. And we're seeing that this generation's ideas and methods and ways of working are not limited to them. They're actually creeping both up and down in generations. So if your goal is to reach baby boomers, if you wait 6 more years, they may be thinking like millennials as well.
Do you think that's something that's unique to this generation, that they're having more influence on older generations than previous? Or, we might not have the data on that.
I don't know
think
if I
that is
agree.
such an interesting thought.
I think so too. I think it is, and I think you tie it to the exchange of information. This generation as digital natives, there's nothing they can't know and nothing they can't share. Their network is far greater than their parents' network. Even though it may not be a face-to-face network, to this generation, it's as real and as powerful.
Isn't there
Yeah.
sort of the other thing that I kind of look at with this is that that sort of speaks to these if you already are a large organization with established donor base, then this may be a consideration. But what if you're a startup organization who does not have an established donor base? Doesn't that mean that these almost aging people are sort of already committed to other causes? Wouldn't your approach be better, more strategic or better served by targeting this audience that now is not being targeted by, all these.
Sort of to say that the older generation of donors is already spoken for, almost to say.
Right, yeah.
I think you're right. I think that any new organization that's going to announce or launch themselves, I think inherent has to be some strategy around building out that engagement with millennials, maybe even the core strategy. Because it's a huge generation, their interests are varied. And I think that gets to a lot of what we as a team have been looking up over the course of the last few days, like what makes them give, right? And it's not, you said this right before we were meeting, Nate, that it used to be perhaps that giving was about a civic duty. And millennials don't give out of duty, they give out of impulse. Just the way that they buy. And it's not a negative thing. They give like, show me that this matters. And an organization that can come out of the box, even if it's day one, to say, here's the issue, here's how we help, here's what you can do, millennial, to make this different, that's a game changer. They speak right to the heart of the matter. Do you have a comeback? Do you have something else?
Well, my final comeback. I mean, I've made a lot of money on this one. I've made so much money on this one, so I don't know. This is like the final paragraph in the book that I wrote, my fictional book. By the time millennials start becoming meaningful donors, technology and media usage won't be at all like it is now. Almost anything you learn about millennials today is going to be out of date by the time it starts to matter. But I kind of have a feeling that I'm going to not be very relevant with that statement.
No, that's so true. And
It sounds so fatalistic.
right. But it's so neat because it's dead on. It really is dead on in the sense that you're right. Things are changing so fast that in 20 years, the correspondence to technology and the way that we engage with this generation will completely change. But you almost have to look at the world of advertising right now and say, look, there are major brands who are having still a difficult time understanding the social space. Like there are Fortune 500 companies who don't yet know how to moderate their social communities, right? They're not great at it, they're not fully invested in it, their brand or their idea, their identity is a little older and they think their audience is older, so they're having trouble there. And as a result, they're not even looking at things like virtual reality or augmented reality, right? Mm-hmm. And yet there are other brands who are fully invested in that kind
You
of
might have
technology.
just lost.
So think about those glasses. You know those glasses where you put on and you're in a room and you look around and all of a sudden you're like in a forest, right? Mm-hmm. There are some brands who are using that as their primary method of communication. So if you buy that headset and you're playing a game, you're actually walking to a Pepsi store and Pepsi has all these different products, right? Now there's a brand that's already looking at the technology. It's not proven, but is testing the waters because they know that in 5 years it will be so commonplace that it'll be too late for them to have a foothold. So will technology change? Absolutely. But how can you jump so far if you stay here?
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, this is probably an old analogy a little bit, since everything is cloud-based these days, but have you ever tried to go from version 1 to version 10?
Absolutely.
Software.
Have
you ever gone from Windows 98 to Windows 10? I mean, that's an impossible leap. And every platform iteration builds on the former. Mm-hmm. So if you're not iterating now, if you're not keeping up now with the trends, the chance of you bridging that gap later is so much lower.
Yeah.
But it sounds like from what Meg was saying, she doesn't, I mean, what's the point of trying? She doesn't even want to try. Not you.
Right. My fictional. But it's like, this thinking is like very prevalent, and so you have to kind of talk to the way I think about it and the way I come at it, and the budgets that I have, like, I have, a $5,000 mailing budget each year, and mailings are effective. So why would, and if what I'm doing right now is so successful and I'm reaching the baby boomers and they're my audience for my organizations, why would I, invest in reaching millennials? But I feel like you've answered that fairly well.
Oh, good.
I mean, back to sort of what you were saying before, I know this is, a little bit too accessible, but, look at the Pokemon Go craze. So many people, including big technology companies, are saying the gap from, today to, VR or augmented reality is a ways away. Mm-hmm. And honestly, if you look at the Pokemon Go game from a purely technical standpoint, there's a lot of holes there. But it's, look how prevalent it's become in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, there's a lot of holes, but it became, right, like you said, so prevalent. It became the number one thing. Literally for 1 week, that's what we all talked about. The whole world talked about, right? So it can't be that far.
Yeah.
right? And it looks like this generation is willing to jump on, try, and go for something new. And it's fun,
Absolutely.
Right.
right?
That's
That
why
I think
it's
is
not-
definitely,
it's
that's
not
strikes
just-
a chord with me. Like
Yeah.
I feel like people are really,
So true.
really willing to try technology that's not proven, as opposed to,
Yeah.
you know, when I worked at a company, when I would talk about exciting new things, like they were always coming, it was a big, you know, corporation, and they were always coming back with, but we have to wait till this is on the market for 10 years to test it, or, you know, 5 years, and I'm like, whoa, you think so differently than people I'm used to talking to. Like, we want to try new stuff.
Right.
We want to be the testers.
Well,
Yeah.
We want to be sending back the messages that say, like, hey, this is broken. And
Yeah.
we're proud of ourselves for finding bugs, you know, to help make it better. Like, we're
But-
proud of that.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is
Iterations.
indicative of, you know, people's ability or willingness to adapt is that it wasn't 12-year-olds that were, it wasn't just 12-year-olds talking
No.
about Pokemon Go. It was 40-year-olds, it was 35-year-olds.
See, that goes back to something CB said in however many years, baby boomers are gonna actually be thinking like millennials. I have never thought about that.
Which really makes me
I
proud of
mean-
baby boomers, actually.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Adoption.
Right?
Yeah, they're an adaptive generation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my mom is playing Pokemon Go. I know she's on Snapchat, which is just.
That's really cute.
Yeah, it is
I love to get my
awesome.
mom on Snapchat.
My
I can't
mom
even get her on Instagram.
My
Yeah.
mom is awesome, so
Good. That's good.
yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, it is. I hear the current concerns of the organization, especially the lumbering beast who has operated under status quo for so long.
Right.
And I think to answer that question again, the sort of why should we? And the truth is that if your budgets are fixed and you can't yet find a way to allocate a certain amount of funding for testing, trying, or experimenting with this generation, what happens when your donor base begins to die and that budget begins to shrink?
It's going to shrink, absolutely.
You have far less ability to test, right? So better to try. I mean, even if it's as successful as finding one new revenue stream, one new channel of giving, one new method of advocacy that turns millennial doers into millennial givers, even if it's that minimal, that's better than nothing, right?
Mhm.
And I think at the end of the day, you've got to find a way to begin to supplement this without sounding too crass, this whole way of thinking. I think
Right.
you have to.
And no, go ahead, Marissa.
Mailings that you mentioned are very expensive. Take half
Yes.
your mailing bucket, make your newsletter, you know, half the link.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Take half your
And
Yeah, and so
Do
I
something
think
cool.
that this is kind of, this would be a good topic for us to talk about. So there are lots of things that people are doing now that are part of their current strategy. It's part of the fabric of who they are. They can't get outside of that box and think about it. What are things that people are doing now that don't work with millennials?
That don't work.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's repurposing what you already have. Millennials are very keen to understand when they're they're keen to see when they're lying. They're lied to.
Yeah.
They understand when it's fake, when it's
Right.
disingenuous.
like their BS meter is really
Oh,
low.
it's so low, and they can almost sniff it out before you start the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's taking, I mean, certainly one of the worst examples is taking, you said it earlier, taking a letter and making it a PDF,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or scanning it or something like that. Now that's a crude or crass example, but the truth is that to do something that's taking what you already do to communicate to a generation and just hoping that it works because we put it on the web, it simply doesn't. I mean, they're looking for not just a different experience, they're looking for a whole different way of communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And they know if you're throwing LOLs in at the wrong time just because you think that's the conversation.
Right?
They get it and you're done. Now, one thing that you said here, that millennials, it didn't have to be, there was holes in the game in Pokemon, right? And we actually kind of enjoy being the ones who say, this is busted, right? We're in the reviews on the App Store saying like, hey, this
Right.
bug is working. You know what actually comes out of that for millennials that's not like baby boomers is that when baby boomers encounter a glitch in the matrix, so to speak, they see it as an unpolished toolkit and perhaps an untrustworthy entity.
Right. Yes.
We don't.
Big difference.
We don't. Actually, millennials find a certain level of ownership when you're allowed to participate in the drafting.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, this is a bug. And then when it's fixed,
Yeah.
guess who fixed that bug?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Absolutely. It is
Now
about
I'm
ownership.
actively involved in this organization. So,
I partnered with Pokemon or
Right.
Google or whatever.
so if you
Yeah.
communicate with me in a new platform, I know that you may or may not know how to speak to me. But if it's genuine and it's real, I'm actually, and if you come at me literally authentically, then
Right.
you're going to give me an opportunity that if you get me in the cause piece, if I understand the value of what we're trying to accomplish, you may get me to volunteer my time to help you reformat your Facebook page.
Love that. This leads into what motivates millennials to give, how to change the conversation.
Yeah.
I have two facts. I presented this. I have two facts. Everybody is probably aware of these facts, but in case you're not, would love to read them. Millennials, or America's youth born between 1982 and 2000, now number 83.1 million and represent more than 1/4 of the nation's population. Their size exceeds that of the 75.4 million baby boomers. So we already outnumber baby boomers, and millennials will have the largest buying power in the U.S. by 2017.
That's
And right now, they're very close second to baby boomers in current buying power. So just like those facts are, well, kind of shattered my myths that it's not worth it to target millennials. But yeah, I'd love to, you guys, like us to talk about what motivates millennials to get involved in.
So one thing that I see a lot of is that a lot of organizations are they have a very sort of closed-fisted way of approaching their donors and contributors. So this is mine, this is not any other organizations, this is mine, and I want them to make a commitment to my organization so that we can both mutually, survive into the future.
Right.
And so there's this sort of aspect of, I want you to become a member, I want you to become, committed to a group or whatever. Millennials just don't think that way, and to them, the thought of making a commitment on a long-term basis, something like a membership or something like that, is just not something that they're going to do. They would much rather, like you said, make an impulse decision that doesn't feel like it has a long-term impact to them. To say, I can give $30 now because I care about your cause, but I'm not going to buy a $30 membership that may have other strings attached, so to speak.
No, that's good. It's counterintuitive. The negative stereotypes about the millennial generation is certainly those that are perpetuated by, you never want to be the cranky old man that's like these kids today, right?
Yeah.
But that stereotype about millennials is that their face is buried in their phone, that they were raised as getting trophies on every sport that they played,
Right.
that they're totally self-centered, totally narcissistic, totally wrapped in themselves, and have no understanding of the greater world. But you have it in one of our facts. HuffPost calls millennial generations the giving generation. Certainly in faith-based sectors, they're finding that they're actually some of the best givers. And what happens is that it counter to what we think is that this generation is incredibly altruistic, not based on being impressed by an organization they can be a part of, but solely based on what could we beat, defeat, win, conquer today. And you've seen organizations who speak to, do you remember when we used to do marketing in the nonprofit space, and some of it's still in there, and I know you've seen a couple commercials that are very sad, and the song is very slow, and it's all about the problem, right? You watch that on TV and you're devastated, and you can't turn it, but you just can't even deal with this issue at the moment, right? That used to be the way that we would market in nonprofits, is here is the problem, aren't you moved, right? And then there was this shift where we realized that, people don't like that. People, they may be moved to give, but they're not like that. And we found with at MGIV, the work we did with the Red Cross, was that making the argument to them that says, we can, all of us, if we just do a little, do this big thing.
The small ask.
It was the smallest ask possible, and we spoke always to the end game.
Yeah.
Here's what we will fix. Not here's the problem. It's imperative in the solution that you understand the problem. And I had seen it working with nonprofits, some of the leading edge nonprofits who would be really into the mobile game, and their marketing would all be, what if we beat cancer tomorrow? Huge bold ass, crazy pie in the sky dream. But that's how they went after millennials. Because the truth is like, well, wait, what if we did beat cancer tomorrow? And that ask is all the way down the pipeline. It's not like, look how great our organization is, look how bad the problem is. It's like, did you know what you could do, and we'd love to help you do it, millennial. Does that make sense? And it really is like, it takes it full circle. They may be lost in their phone, but that's how you talk to them. Like, do you know what you're capable of? Well, what am I capable of? Right? And here's how we would love to help you achieve that.
But they're getting on their phone. That's what they're doing on their phone.
Absolutely, right? And that speaks right to the heart of the matter. If you're gonna speak to what they care about, then you've got to speak to them in the method that they use.
The other thing I think that is especially powerful in that is that because of the technology, at some levels, the personal connection is maybe the weakest that it ever has been between millennials as people. And so when they feel that sense of connectedness and belonging, it's that much more powerful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But here's the interesting thing, is that we, and let's say that Meg, you're definitely firmly planted in the millennial generation, but we're cusp kids, right? So let's say we're not, right? And for us, the argument that this digital connection is not as strong actually rings hollow for a lot of millennials. Because if they're digital natives, these are the connections that they formed, and this actually feels very connected to them. And that may seem strange to us. Without a face-to-face interaction, you and I are just digital acquaintances, but I know people who are millennials who are firmly implanted in their relationship with somebody they've never met. And you see that across all spheres, whether it be dating, friendship, or whatever it may be. And accordingly, I actually think that opens the door for nonprofits to begin to introduce themselves in a manner that's still meaningful. It used to be we would throw a party, a gala, come meet us, come meet the president, come meet the spokesperson. It's a Wounded Warrior Project, meet one of our wounded warriors, right? It used to be that had to happen because I needed tangible results. That's not the case anymore.
So relate to that.
So,
I mean, in my early 20s, as like a traveling the world, living lots of places, my closest friendships were with people online. And we met.
That's how you two met.
We met online.
We
knew each other for 10 years.
A year ago.
Yeah.
But we felt very connected for 10 years. Over.
I mean, we shared personal things. Like, we have had
helped each other with
life
life problems.
And then we started working together, and I was like, oh, I should have never told her that. I saw that because I was like, oh my gosh, she knows everything about me. We had a really close friendship. It was crazy. And then we met, and I trusted you guys like so much. Like, it wasn't like, oh, what if she's not, I just trusted her completely. Well, we started working. They hired me before we even met in person. So yeah, crazy, huh?
Siri Magnuson says,
hey, do I need
really
to
fun to hear you guys talk about this, feeling especially relevant as my nonprofit is launching a media campaign called Tangible Hope. And it's hashtag
Congratulations.
Whose aim is to increase hope by having people share stories of hope and inspire people to create more of these moments. And then the comment has a link to their campaign.
Incredible.
So, cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks,
Sari.
Hi, Sari and hi, Lorene.
Awesome. Hi, guys.
And that's a prime example of the first step in fostering a relationship with millennial donors, right? They're doing two really great things here. One, they're using the mechanism of social media and the hashtag so that it's relevant, it's native to the digital space, right? But this idea of them participating and producing their own stories, sharing that stuff, that speaks right to the millennials. Like, let me tell you this great thing that happened, right? And what a great way to start that conversation. And you may see that initial engagement takes off, and then whatever the funnel may be, it depends on the organization, but sometimes you see an engagement level of 100 people who are engaged online can turn into 10 activists who can turn into one donor. Is that worth it? Absolutely. Because if you get a donor started with you in a long-term relationship at 30, wow, right? And what if they become a brand ambassador, right? It's a great way to do it. So I'm excited. That's a neat thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and so one final thing that is, because we kind of need to wrap up here, but going back to sort of that ask for commitment of membership.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean that millennials aren't willing to commit.
No, that's right.
And so what you
Right,
see
right,
a
right,
lot
right.
of is you see a lot of what's being successful today are ways where millennials are committing, but they're on their own terms.
Yeah.
So things like creating their own campaign. I'm donating my birthday to X cause, and it's my campaign for this cause. Everybody get involved and give, and and people are raising thousands of dollars that way because it's their ownership of the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
I love that.
That's
And,
good.
and CB had a statistic to back that up.
Yeah,
I
there
don't know,
was a
it's
do what
50
you
or
do.
40% of millennials want to give monthly.
This is from the 2016 Millennial Impact Report, and if that's it's put out by Achieve. They're a cause marketing organization. They do one every year. 13 is the one we pull all the statistics from, but the 2016, it says 46% of millennials had volunteered to a cause affiliated with a social issue in the past month. 52 had donated, and 64 had signed a petition. This is all within the last 30 days.
Wow.
So those are incredible numbers. What's unique here is that they're tied to a social issue. And I think that's inherent in what we are as nonprofits, as charities, is we're tied to something. But the verbiage here in this research indicates that you very clearly have to talk about what you're trying to solve, right? I think that the idea of using the brand, even American Red Cross, has got to talk about what they're reaching, what they're doing, what the accomplishment is. And I think that's where you begin to get us down, millennials, down that road of what we can accomplish.
Right.
Yeah.
Reminds me of one other thing that comes up regularly, and that is a lot of organizations, millennials want to make a connection between their give and the result.
Yeah.
And so what we tell a lot of organizations is when you make a giving ask, talk about what it could accomplish. And a lot of organizations that are a little older, more established will say, well, then that's a restricted, fund, and we need to put it specifically toward that cause, and it doesn't have to be that way.
No, right.
So you can make an ask and talk about what it could accomplish without, this is not a legal contract.
Of course.
We're going to put this towards X.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think it opens you're right. They want to see the impact. And whether it comes in the form of a formal annual giving stewardship report, right, that says this is what came in and this is what we did, or in the sense of, did you know if you gave $10, you could buy X amount of bed nets, right? Malaria Memorial, I literally built their entire model about it. Buy a bed net.
I love that. Yeah.
If you and you just put the concept like one bed net, that's one child for their whole life. It's one life.
Right.
Right? That's an incredible long-term
A
conversation.
little different thing than donate $10.
Absolutely.
That would cost $10.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Oxfam is doing the same thing on charity
Charity
water.
water,
So
of
many.
course, yeah.
And I love that there's that,
And-
like, I'm willing to give $10 a month or something to, especially like I like the smaller numbers and increments, but especially when I know exactly.
Yeah.
And think about all these organizations that we mentioned aren't that old.
No.
Oxfam, Malaria Memorial,
It's
Charity
incredibly
Water,
impactful.
and they're huge.
Right.
Their fundraising efforts primarily are online.
Yeah.
Most of their donors are currently online.
That's right. That's right. And they all understand that model of, and I think that you can almost, and this is what we did when we first came out, we were trying to present that concept of MGIF about the mobile gift, the small gift, micro donations. We were always very blessed that the 2008 election happened, because when President Obama came out and his whole campaign was built around those small gifts, it began to click a little bit and make sense. And that's what a lot of these organizations are doing. They're like, look, we just throw the biggest net possible, and we get 1,000 small gifts. We never have to throw a gala. There are no letters. I have no senior donors. I don't do donor retention programs, and I certainly don't take out, the big donors to dinner. It's just speaking to the heart of the matter.
Love that. The ground's already been broken.
Yeah.
That's a very big one.
All right, thanks guys so much for joining us. Thanks CB for being on the chat, and we'll be posting this video later, cleaned up and segmented in bite-sized pieces. So feel free to come back and check it out, share it with your friends.
Love
Yeah.
Thanks guys.
Thank you.
Yep.
it. See you guys.